Okay, before we start, could I just have like a quick show of hands of anybody who has any interest in like the culinary arts, cooking, anything? Anybody who actively cooks? Great, lovely stuff. Okay, so as you all know, cooking is like pretty much the epitome of connection. Even like the most stubborn person, if put in front of a good meal, would just be quiet and simply eat it. You know, a great culinarian once said, a simple or like a really good meal requires just a few things. Really good ingredients, the right pan, and most importantly, the most fantastic chef. Now, of course, this can be applied, in the long run of how you live your life as a whole. But I'd like to introduce to you all the great culinarian that actually brought up these words. A 16-year-old who watched Gordon Ramsay and thought he could cook. But at the same time, I did also realize from watching Gordon Ramsay that, look, there's certain parts in life and there's certain things in life that make up a really good outcome. That's the same thing with empathy. Okay, now let's get to the point. I remember a few days back, I was doom scrolling on Instagram, and I came across like a plethora of reposts on animal rights, like Otara's entire Embark Foundation, but also in the recent past, on this entire topic of the Iris Foundation, which basically focuses on discussing and illuminating global perspectives. Now, something I found quite interesting when I was going through this was the fact that most of these discussions ended at reposting. Sure, they took the effort to repost. Sure, it did amass a bunch of support. But nobody bothered to go past that. The discussion of discourse, why exactly did something happen? Why is Sri Lanka in the situation that it is? Why is the world in the situation that it is? Ended at the bit of reposting. So the conclusion that I drew from this observation is that we as society lack empathy. That's the modern age. Because things like social media play such a big role. And that's exactly why we as humans don't delve into like the deeper understanding of why something happens. Now, what exactly is empathy? Empathy, simply put, is the ability to understand, to share feelings with one another. A really good quote that I can actually bring up is from Simon Baron-Cohen, a renowned British psychologist. Empathy is like the universal solvent. Empathy is like the universal solvent. If a problem is immersed in empathy, it becomes soluble. This applies in any context, because realistically speaking, right, whilst I was actually working on this speech and whilst I was here to present in front of you all, I wanted to work and research on specifically psychologists and what exactly they thought of empathy. Hence why I came across Mr. Baron-Cohen's work on his research on this book, which was called The 0 Degrees of Empathy. Now, I took a liking to it, because what Mr. Baron-Cohen identified in that book was that empathy is the glue to human relationships. As much as it might seem confusing, most of you have social relationships with people because of empathy, because you find that common ground between you and a complete stranger. There's a reason for that connection to happen in the first place. Curiosity also does play a role, but empathy is the reason that it lasts. And I want you to think about that for a bit, because there's a very great difference between you having a normal friend, probably meeting a person right now. If you were able to empathize with them, is the reason why you're going to follow up, probably text them later onwards. Now, I'd like to share with you all a few new terms and a few new ideas that I also came across. In the book, 0 Degrees of Empathy, there were two terms that I came across. One being people who are 0 negative and people who are 0 positive. Because what it tells us is that we're all part of an empathy spectrum, meaning that we're all part of empathy in a certain extent. But the 0 positive are people who have empathy, or don't have empathy in this case, but often engage in harmful behavior. This looks like having violent actions, lashing out, or even things like murder occurring. This is often why you see people like Ted Bundy existing. On the other hand, you have the people who are 0 negative, the people who also lack empathy in the same case, but they aren't necessarily harmful to society. Rather, they excel in other strengths, in the instance of being really good in certain fields like mathematics, engineering, the sciences. So the key deriving factor that we can take off from this is that empathy is what dictates how you socialize in society and how we perceive situations. Because even if a person does lack empathy, it doesn't mean that they are strayed away from society. Empathy is not a prerequisite. It's not a personal trait that you often have. Rather, it's a part of a neural circuit. And more often than not, that you would think about, let's get into a bit of the sciences here, is the fact that we have something like a neural circuit in our brains. Certain sectors often light up when we have empathy. this being the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. And these parts of our brain often play like a massive role in how we socialize in the public, how we like talk to another person we don't know about. And this is quite interesting, right? Because realistically speaking, that's the sense of comfort that you could have. If you were empathetic towards a person, it's the inherent comfort that you can have towards that person in the same degree. Okay, now, what's the problem that we have in society today? Because like I told you, we lack empathy in the modern world. So why does it matter? Because look at social media today. The surface level empathy that we observe on social media is a simple symptom that now there's an overall change in the sense of saying that people process empathy in a different manner. In the 1980s, which was known as like the global period for change and even for action to occur, things like global problems was often defined in a very different extent. It was with a matter of concern or with a matter of like urgency. However, now that's clearly taken a different path. Things like Charli D'Amelio having a problem with her TikTok dance is now become like a massive stunt within social media. And that's quite ironic, right? Because that's what empathy has become now. And that's realistically why we don't have that same amount of connection as you would have had in the past. So, take the instance of even a normal person existing in society. Take you. You're scrolling through Instagram, and you're telling yourself, oh, like there's a massive problem in society. Take the example of ice cream. Yes, ice cream wastage is like a massive problem, but I'm behind the screen. What difference can I do? The problem's not even associated with me. That's usually where the conversation ends. That's usually where the discourse just goes out the window. I need you to really question yourself, why exactly you yourself, who thinks it's a problem, you have the ability, you have the nerve and the effort to actually go and repost it, but that's usually where we all feel like we're somewhat just. We're okay with the fact that, look, you know what, maybe we helped. But did we really do that? I mean, like we had our past guest speakers here with wildlife conservation. Sure, you might be taking pictures of the wildlife, but do you respect it? Do you follow the ethics of it? These are questions that we don't ask in society anymore, and these are questions that I'd argue are very problematic. Now, take personal relationships. Example, you messed up your exams. You go on Instagram, you find like the best motivational page you can possibly find, and you repost it and say, oh yeah, I'm very sad about the fact that I messed up my exams. You're going to have the odd comment that tells you, oh, you're going to be fine, like that's not really a problem. Or they'll like your message, or they'll like your post just to make you feel better. But realistically speaking, that sense of solace and the sense of like consolidation that you have is not going to exist anymore. Even in like in-person relationships, take you and like another person that means a lot to you. Okay? Sure, you might have 2, maybe 3 close friends in the really good instance that you're really social. But a majority of the instances, if these relationships are merely just surface level, they often don't mean much. I challenge you, go a week without speaking to that person. If nothing in your life changes, that inherently means that that relationship was not that meaningful. That didn't make such a great difference in your life. And why? That's often because you're not that empathetic. Even if you had a common ground of like acknowledging things like, I don't know, having like similar interests, like watching Formula 1, or probably even like understanding another person's problems. Even if that did exist, the likelihood of that being special to you is something that differentiates between something that lasts and something that just exists. Now, each thread can be viewed as a relationship, and each thread can be of a different color. Now, without meaningful relationships, inherently, these artworks or these tapestries, sure, they can be built. You can get like one string and make a tapestry. But will it be colorful? Will it actually uphold what a tapestry is supposed to be? Is it supposed to be meaningful? I'm here to tell you that nonetheless, these things often just remain like most of these relationships that we have, a blank canvas. That's where the end of these stories often lie. The fact that it doesn't matter after a certain point in time whether or not how much effort you put in, because it's often going to be that dead end. And more often than not, these meaningful relationships aren't actually as meaningful as you would want it to be. So, now, the most important part here is, I believe the entire key is for you to drop this entire facade of a perfect personality. Yes, being the perfect caricature of what the competitive or even like the disconnected world needs is necessary for success. But at the same time, we are social animals. And I think we can all agree on that. But at the same time, we also, and I'd like to present this like idea to you. The real reason why actually like humanity even exists is because of our ability to empathize. In situations in which people tell you, where's your humanity? It's often, where's your ability to be a human and understand the situation of another? You don't have to sympathize, that's a completely different story. But your ability to understand and your ability to coherently mechanize that in your head is two different things. And your ability to have, understand their sorrow or even relate to them is why exactly it's important not to sacrifice those things within your life. And why exactly that's such a great deal as to why we have such meaningless relationships in the first place. Now, I'd argue that the only way you can actually make this change is by actually having meaningful relationships. The 16-year-old chef in me understood this, because if you wanted to make a really good meal, you need to have the right ingredients. It had to be measured out well. It had to be cooked well. You need the right pot, you need the right pan or the spoon to make the ingredients come together and to make a perfect meal. Why does that not apply? Sure, that makes a good meal, but you know how everybody says, cook with your soul? That's mainly because of the fact that that extra step is the effort that you put in, the extra bit of love that you give your meal. Apply that same logic into your own relationships. The extra bit of love that you're going to imply into, your friendships with your best friend, or relationship you might have with your parents. The extra step you take is the difference between something lasting and something existing. And I'd want to make that key difference right now, because the majority of society is solely running on the entire paradigm of existing. The entire paradigm of thinking that, look, I have friends now. You never think about the fact that are those friends going to be there for you? Are they going to be there down the line when you really need them? Because that's the difference between existing and lasting. And I really promote a lot of you all to actually try and do this, because that's realistically what's going to make the difference. Now, moving on to the last bit of my speech, and I want to actually make this reference in honor of my mom, because she's not here, but I would like to do so. I think there's a small problem with the remote. This could be. Yeah, okay. So, in memory of my mom, this is one of the, our favorite movies. I actually shared my childhood basically based on this. This is Kung Fu Panda. If most of you all know how the first movie went, that's Po, the panda. And at the beginning of it, he was selected to be the Dragon Warrior. He was thrown out simply because of the fact that everybody thought he didn't deserve to be there. But nobody actually sympathized with him, because only afterwards did they sympathize with Po's situation, and to the point in which they became that. The point in which Tigress, who was a cold-hearted killer, actually, and also I could argue is a narcissistical maniac, actually became somebody who was empathetic. Empathy is malleable. It's not something that's bred into your body. It's not something that psychology tells you that you can't change. Your environment dictates it, and more often than not, you can change it yourself. So be that change, be the difference, have more meaningful relationships, because make your own tapestry, be empathetic. Thank you.